Thank you. My whole goal, I want to make sure, first of all these wires I have hanging off me are working. My number one goal for talking with parents, especially beginning in our community, is that we never have to meet again. I run a drug and alcohol and self-harm treatment center for children. We go ages 12 to 17, so we're the kids programs. Fire Mountain started as a kids camp, went to after-school programs, started doing teen rites of passage programs. That led to working with parents. That led to a wonderful international speaking career. I just returned from Brazil, prior to that Amsterdam, prior to that Portugal, so I feel very fortunate to be able to travel around the world doing this. But it all began with a parent literally saying, "Can my kid just come and live with you?" Now, I wanna preface that by saying, as a parent, I've messed up plenty. So don't believe a word I say. Take what you want, like what you like, leave the rest. My goal is that we never have to meet again. And if we do, I want to do everything in my power to help you. Currently, I have a team of about 33 people working with the kids in our treatment facility. We are now in Estes Park. We did start in Boulder. We still do run some of our kids' camps, and beginning in 2019, we are going to start running our Teen Rite of Passage camp again. But the reason why I come and do these talks, next to hoping we never meet again, is to give you everything that I know the kids in our facility have struggled with and the families are lacking, and we need to put into play now. And you're still in a prime time of training new habits on your kid, especially when it comes around technology. And I'm laughing because I'm sitting over here thinking about my technology talk, and I'm staring at my phone, and my watch is beeping at me, and I've got wires hanging off of me. And so we have to address the fact that we are living in a technological age, and we can't just yank it. I do not ever believe, and I will start this talk saying, don't ever, ever take the kid's cell phone away as a punishment. It doesn't work. And you'll see the first time you'll do it, what happens. Because I instruct parents to do this all the time. Don't take it away. It is not a tug of war with a cell phone. And the moment you make it, the moment you are in a power struggle with a child, I'm going to write that down because I want you to really look at these words for a second. Now, we're also going to do things a little bit differently. When I do talks, it's not just me talking, you got to talk too. So when I write something on this board, you're going to say it out loud, and I'll give you the command when to do it. Then you're going to have to turn and say it to someone else, and then you're probably going to have to high-five them, and it's going to drive you nuts. But you'll remember it. So this is the first thing I'm going to write down. Please say that out loud. That's not out loud. Please say it out loud. Turn to someone near you, put your hands up like this, and say it like a question. Do it. Okay. Now, does that make sense? When I say a power struggle with a child, at what point did this start? When did power struggles with children start? Especially around things that are supposed to be a benefit to them. Technology is one of those things. It's not going to go away. It's going to get more intrusive. And let's be honest, we have the Library of Alexandria in our hands. We have to look at what the good that has come from this, before we talk about how this is messing up all of our brains. I promised I wouldn't cuss. I'm not going to cuss. I have two kids. They are both in college now. Hooray! And I've been through this. I was lucky that cell phones with kids just became a thing. So I didn't have the big part of the struggle until they got into high school, until the smartphone thing started up. My son's relationship to video games was something he managed. He would get obsessed with it. We'd watch his grades dip. He would get bored with it. His grades would go back up. So we let him manage it. To this day, he still manages it. So let's start with the good, okay? One of the things that scientists have told us has happened because of our modern technology is we are more what? Say it. We have access to so many platforms of creation now. with music and writing. I remember when Facebook was just starting to really get its meat and potatoes. My daughter, when she was 14, she was going to school over at Manhattan, went to New Vista after that. She wrote a poem about being a prostitute. It went viral in India. And she was getting this feedback, men saying to her, this is amazing, I never thought about it this way, I'm sorry for your life. And I'm like, hang on, time out. She's a 14-year-old girl in Boulder, Colorado. Okay, let's get that clear first. But that boosted her, that created a self-concept, and you're going to hear me say that word a lot tonight, self-concept. I don't want to talk about self-worth, and I don't want to talk about self-esteem. I want to talk about self-concept. Because that's what happens when we're creative. That's what happens when we start to manage our lives. That's what happens when we lose it. That's why we get anxious. So we're going to touch back into self-concept a lot, but that helped my daughter create self-concept. I have something to say because I'm someone. That's how technology helped my daughter. Her creativity led to her to publish a book. We have increased what now? Say it again. I'm going to make you say it again until it's nice and loud. Good. The ability to make a decision based on what we see in an instant has drastically improved. That is drastically improved. The next one that we have, this is something that when I saw this research, it really blew me away, but our children are doing this. They're dreaming in color. Those of us who are in our late 30s, into our 50s, we still might remember black and white TVs. I certainly do. I had black and white TVs. We dreamed in black and white until we got exposed to enough color. Children are dreaming in color now at the beginning. That's using a different part of the brain. The next one is kind of an obvious. I'm probably spelling things wrong, and I need to talk about this for a second. When I was a 16-year-old teen angst poet, and I would bring poetry downstairs to my mom and say, read this. And she would take it, she would go click with the red pen, because she was a teacher. And I would say things like, you're not reading what I'm saying. And she's like, I just want everybody to be able to understand it, as she underlined improper grammar. So expect me to spell wrong, and if you laugh, I will take it very personally and stomp out. So that word is supposed to be immediate, and now I forgot the rest of my sentence. We have access to information immediately, and obviously the benefit to this is that we look things up. We research things much more than we used to. Life isn't so much a guessing game. And because we are looking things up more and more, children are more resource savvy and source savvy. They're starting to look at sources. They're accepting a lot less BS than we accepted as kids. The idea that books were the truth and the internet is a lie is a complete fallacy. Anybody can write a book. Anybody can write a good book. And anybody can post something on the internet. But the access to information is huge. Researching things, look it up. When we say to kids at our treatment center, hey, there's a great website for that. It's called Google. Have you heard of it? They laugh and they're like, oh yeah. So now let's take a look at some of the other sides. As I do, I want to start with getting some of your information. We know some of the things about technology and teens. And technology in children is bad. What have you heard? What's bad about technology? Yes?
Rewires their brain.
What's another one we've heard?
Changes attention spans.
What's another one?
It creates a false sense of satisfaction, dopamine release.
That one right there is important, the dopamine release, because that has to do with the rewiring of the brain as well. The internet is absolutely getting kids' brains to release chemicals, which is exactly why they get addicted to it. And I'm going to use the word addiction in quotes because what we teach is it's not about the thing you're using, it's about the person. You can be addicted to mayonnaise. It's the person. You've got to deal with the person. Addiction to us means I keep doing things to mess up my life and I can't stop. Well, that can be pretty much anything. What's another thing that we're hearing that's bad? Technology in kids. What's another one?
Changes their sleep.
Sleep patterns. Got another one?
Exposes them to predators.
Say it.
Exposes them to predators.
I'm going to call it the shadow. That's a big part of our topic. You said.
Physical activity goes down.
Say again.
Physical activities go down.
Okay. We got another one. Do you know why their memory retention is going down? It's two reasons.
They don't have to remember.
They don't have to remember, they can just look it up. How many of you used to know a ton of phone numbers? Now you don't even know your own. Like, what's my number? What's the other reason?
We're getting way more information than we used to get.
So we're going to address that one in a second because that overload is going against their actual brain development. It's not the one I'm looking for, but that's a good one. What's the other reason why memory retention's going down? They're not writing. Writing things down aids in memory retention. The reason why I have you repeat, what's this word?
Memory retention.
The reason why I have you repeat it is because it increases when we do that. Turn to someone and say memory retention. Now we've just increased it another 20%, and those of you who are laughing just increased it by another 15 because you've put an emotion behind it. So memory retention is a big deal. When we don't have to remember because we can just look it up, we don't. When we talk about the personal management, if you come to that talk, that's a big part of it, is why we write in our daytimers. Who knows what this means? Yeah, the fear of missing out. This is a big one. Scientists have done research, and they've shown kids who are eating a very healthy meal and looking at meals on Pinterest describe their own meals as bland. Just because they are looking at a staged picture of food. You know how powerful it is to have a kid understand that the food in commercials is not real food? That it's painted, it's colored, it's dyed, it's plastic? That there are food models that make those things. One of the most potent things my daughter and I ever did is watch the making of Braveheart. Because when she saw Braveheart, she was completely overwhelmed. And then we watched the making of it. She was like, didn't that guy die? I was like, yes, but he's an actor. So in the story he died, but he's telling it. Right? That this fear of missing out, this social media lie. I've got 7 Facebook pages because it's how I do a lot of my marketing. None of them talk about the fights my wife and I have. That's private for you guys and me. But the truth of the matter is that's not our life. We show the best of ourselves or the complete other side, right? That's the Armageddon nirvana of our life, and there's no middle gray area of just the everyday living there. Everybody's pumping each other up or putting each other down, and there's no just day-to-day. And it's not real. The real is what we do when we come to a parent night. That's the real, and it's not Facebook worthy. It's not dramatic enough. So that fear of missing out. There's another one. Be honest, how many of you have experienced phantom vibrations? That's a rewiring of your brain. That's a rewiring of your brain. Think your phone's going off and somebody's phone goes off, everybody checks. We mentioned sleep, so I wrote it down. Inattention and memory problems we addressed. And then the last one, especially with kids, poor impulse control. We have to discuss the reality of poor impulse control in children. Because we want them to make good decisions. We want them to have the gap. In our program, we call it Mind the Gap. All clinical intervention is minding the gap. It's creating a gap between the feeling and the action. The feeling and the action has to have a gap. You get angry at your boss. I know what you picture, but that's not what you do. All right, maybe some of you do it, but then you have to get another job. And that's where impulse control becomes an issue. Children don't have that. That's a prefrontal cortex development, which for girls ends at around 25, and for boys, yeah. The new research is saying 30, which is great, because when I hear the high school girls that I work with say, I just want to find a good man. It's like, well, he's 30. Wait till you're that age too. Because until then, we just still have the boy brain. It's developing. So this poor impulse control, we have to expect it. So if we're putting something that creates heightened emotions in front of a child that reinforces reaction based on heightened emotions, then we are reinforcing poor impulse control in children. And then we turn around and say, well, you need to really think through this. They don't have the capacity, and we've been habituating them to not. So just in this few minutes, we now have 2 pages of reasons why not to have electronics technology in children. And if we know that it can rewire an adult brain, imagine what it's doing to a developing brain, but we're stuck in we have to get them involved in it. I truly believe that if you withhold for a significant amount of time, they can actually be behind. It's not that they can't learn it, but where's our healthy balance? My goal with this is to start talking about the tips, the tricks. What I can tell you is these kids who are so obsessed with their technology, in 2 weeks they stop asking about it because in our facility we don't have it. They don't get online. They don't have access to their social media. 2 weeks. And then you know what they're doing? They're playing cards. My parents had a pile of wood around the side of the house. And that's what I did when I was born. Played in a pile of wood. And soon there was a fort. And I know you know this. I know you know what I'm talking about. And so we have to be willing, as parents, as adults, to address the why aren't we willing to be uncomfortable long enough to teach them to be uncomfortable long enough that creativity emerges without the guidelines of that box. It's wonderful to have the Library of Alexandria in the palm of your hand. The sum total of human knowledge is right there for your child, but they don't know how to read a card catalog. And I'll tell you, the website I saw my son looking at 12 years old was not what I was thinking about when I was 12 years old. And that's where that piece around the information that the kids are getting are beyond their capacity to process, and it's creating trauma. Now we have to clarify what trauma is. Trauma is when the body sees something that the brain can't reconcile, or the brain sees something and experiences something that the body can't reconcile. If you ever seen a dog when they get scared, they call it waking the tiger, where the dog shakes. If we don't shake after we've been traumatized, if we don't have a physical response, and if we're not allowed to completely fulfill the physical response, that trauma will remain in our body. I've seen videos online that still traumatize me, that keep me from sleeping, that have informed a big part of my life. I can't imagine the kids seeing those videos, and they do. So I want to talk about digital health, first of all. As we move through, I want this all to be about the tips that I know that our staff have figured out, that the experts have figured out, that you can take home with you. Okay? So let's start with digital health. If you got notes, this is where we're going to want to take it. What's the first one, please?
Time for all.
Now, when I say for all, I'm talking about all electronics, and I'm talking about all people in the household. Was up in Winter Park with my mom and dad. My wife and I, we were all going to breakfast. My mom and dad live up there now. And we walked into a restaurant. There was a table of 4, a mom and dad and 2 boys. Everybody looking at their own screen. There's a wonderful picture that's been floating around the internet of these 4 guys on a gondola in the canals of Venice, all looking at screens. And the guy who's rowing the boat took a picture of him. What are we doing? What happened to our ability to connect? I propose that one of the reasons why children get so addicted to the connective experience online is because we built tall fences between our houses. I mean that metaphorically, but I also mean that we've built really tall fences between our houses that are built very close together. I'm from the time when my mom rang a dinner bell, a whole neighborhood here, when the street lights came on, we were home. And if we weren't home, one phone call and all the moms walked out on the porch, Aaron, get home! So, there has to be a cutoff time for everyone. And everyone has to abide by it. Nothing that I tell you will work without modeling. I will promise you that. Nothing I tell you will work without modeling. Because there is not one thing you learn from your parents from a lecture. Can you think of any great lesson that you have carried to this day because of that 15-minute talking to you got? Anything? We learn by what they did, and we learn by what they didn't do. That's where we made our vows. So the cutoff time. The second thing is an honest education on what is real. What is real? This means we sit down at a Facebook page with someone who you know, who's just everything. Use my Facebook page. I'm in martial arts uniform. I'm in Brazil. I'm in Portugal. I'm this. And ask your kids one simple question. Do you think he poops sitting down? And you're going to break that magic wall between us. And you're going to realize that once again, these people are human, trying to express the best or the worst to get an emotional reaction out of you. What is real? And with the internet, that's hard because some of those websites look really real. So teach your kid how to look for the source. That shadow on the internet cannot be stressed enough. I'm going to say it now. I'll remind you at the end. I have a podcast. I believe it is my most popular episode. It is with Sergeant Harris from the Lakewood Sheriff's Department. Sergeant Harris created a task force to get pedophiles who use cell phones. He started in 1996 in Lakewood. Since 1996, he's arrested 1,000 perpetrators. 1,000 successful prosecutions in Lakewood using cell phones, every single one of them. What is going on out there, you have to get on top of, or your kid's going to fall underneath it. The shadow exists on YouTube, it exists on Facebook, it exists on Pinterest, and it gets worse from there. Educate yourself on what ghost apps are as quickly as possible. Remember, we have to be the guard.
What is
Ghost apps.
Ghost apps.
Yes. They look like a calculator. And they work like a calculator. And they're designed to look exactly like a Mac calculator. They add, subtract. But you put a special 5-6 digit code in, there's a whole new file system where you can store videos, you can store files, you can store photographs right in that phone. Being a guard dog means that if you're giving your kids access to technology, they never have the password. That's your password. They cannot download things without your password. And you change the password. And you tell your kids, you front load, I am going to restore factory settings once a month, and do it. They can write down important numbers and do it. Restore the factory settings, because it will kill all the ghost apps. It will not come back, and they'll have to start over. And if suddenly you see two calendars, or if you see a calculator, look at your calculator on your phone and look at theirs. And if they're different colors, it's not a real calendar or calculator. So guarding it means that you are an active participant in their online use. We'll get to some of those in a minute. Understand this. The brain doesn't know. Say it back to me. Your brain does not know the difference between real violence happening right in front or violence it sees on TV or violence it sees on the internet. So those graphic images that they are seeing are stimulating the same parts of the brain. That's why when the soldiers were tested after they'd come off the battlefield and they would sit down and play Call of Duty, the same parts of the brain were firing that they were experiencing in live combat. And the PTSD with the soldiers who had access to the first-person shooters was way worse because they never gave their brain a chance to heal. And they were completely devastated on sleep. Again, I come back to modeling because this won't happen unless you do it. Your online life is something they're paying attention to. I'm not saying they're going to your pages. They're watching you post. They're watching how much time you spend. So pay attention to it. Regulate it. And just like that family that was eating with their kids, were those texts really more important than that moment? I want you all to write down this word. It's these two words. It's called table topics. Table topics. You're going to hear me say again and again and again how sacred dinner is. Harvard and Stanford have both said family dinners, knowing your kids, friends, parents, things to do between 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock, and real, honest to God education about drugs and alcohol is what keeps kids away from those behaviors. Dinner is something that we have let slip. And I blame the TV tray. Honest to God, I blame the TV tray. Get away from the electronics at dinner. Make dinner sacred again. So that was our digital health. Now I want to talk about digital etiquette. Digital etiquette is defined as this. It's integrity or a sense of self-management and general responsibility for your actions as well as yourself on the internet. Treating people there like you would in real life. So the next set of tips is about etiquette. When we are going to let our kids get online and have the phones, we have to talk about the rules. When the kids are in high school, your grip is slipping. Right? You remember, this was my mom. This is what she had to do when I was a little kid. She's on the phone. I'm like, Mom, Mom, Mom. That was it. I knew everything that meant and it shut me up. Then I get to high school. Mom. And what did I do? And she would go, what did you say? And there goes the power struggle, right? Power struggle with a child, with a teenager. You know what's worse than power struggling with a child? Power struggling with a teenager. Because they're a big child. And those things, that daddy voice, that mommy voice, doesn't work anymore, does it? They start to argue, and all of a sudden they've got some voice you've never heard, and it has words that you don't recall ever teaching them. And then that power struggle becomes violence, right? Violence and conflict are different. Conflict's good. Conflict's healthy. Being afraid of conflict is not okay. We have to be okay with conflict because we're still connected in conflict. Violence is where we've separated. That's where the problem is. So if we're having conflict with our kid, good, stay in that. The etiquette piece around the internet. Face-to-face behavior. You can't do it online if you wouldn't do it to their face. You can't say it to them online if you wouldn't say it to their face. Not on the phone, not in a text, face to face. Look, we're all very clear about these armchair samurais who know exactly how the government should or should not work right now. And right now the war is in the social media, and it is brutal to watch. It is brutal to be involved in. And it used to make fun of the armchair quarterbacks or the armchair referees. Now it's armchair politics. And they say the most terrible things to each other. Adults are acting like children online, and if you put them in the same room face to face, they would never say those things. So the second thing we have to teach our kids is don't lie. Don't lie online. Tell the truth online. That thing of truth should carry across everything we do. It's all we have left is the truth. And the internet's a hard place to find it. So teach your kids not to lie on the internet. The next piece. Even though we might feel like a distant bystander when that thing comes online and our kids have seen it and we're having a conversation, let them see you call the authorities. Let them see you flag it and make a report on Facebook. One of the most powerful self-concept developing things my daughter ever had was when I started traveling, she got a Skype so that we could talk while I was across overseas. And no sooner did she log on to it the first time, and she got some really inappropriate pictures sent to her. And so she came right up to me. She said, look what people are sending. And I said, here's what you're going to respond. You're going to say, thank you for sending this to me. My dad is on the task force for crimes against children for the Boulder Police Department. And now we have your IP address. And the guy freaked out. I'm so sorry, I didn't know you were underage. I'm sorry. And my daughter wrote back, child porn is child porn. And he freaked out, logged offline. We canceled her Skype account. We found another way. But take action. Let them watch you. Let them watch you be uncomfortable and make a call to the police about something that's happened online. If a kid tells you that another kid's being bullied online at school, take action. Let them watch. Let them be nervous. Let them be scared. Let them have a night where they can't sleep because they're worried that their mom or dad did something that's going to cause waves. Make waves in real life, not just online. If it's a crime, it's a crime. It doesn't matter whether you've seen it on a video or watched it in front of you. Let them see this. The other thing about reporting these crimes is role play the conversation. Role play it. In everything that I'm talking to you about how we're going to set up these things with our kids, one of the big things, I want to write this word down because this is an important word. What's the word? Front. Say it again. Front. Tell someone next to you. Give them a high five and say, front loading's awesome. We talk about difficult things when things aren't difficult. That's the rule as a parent. Talk about difficult things when things aren't difficult. Don't wait until the grade slip to talk about homework. Worst time to do it. Don't wait until you're ticked off to talk about the consequence you're going to give because they didn't. That's the worst time to be a parent is when you're angry. We do our worst work when we are angry. Our emotions go up, our intelligence goes down. So we front load when we're not emotional. And front-loading how to call the police, that's a very intense process. So role-play it. In the middle of dinner, say, have you ever heard about kids bullying each other on the phone? Yeah. Well, tell me about an experience. Check your emotions so they see you. Check, wow, that's really intense. That makes me feel really like angry inside just hearing you tell that story. Well, let's pretend it happened to you. What do you think you would do in that type of situation? Listen to their answer. Role play it through to completion. Let them see that there's a path when things are going good. As you see their emotions go up, say, man, isn't it a good thing that it hasn't really happened and we're just practicing in case it does? Because this would be a really hard conversation to have when we're both really angry. So let's have it when we're not. When we're talking about consequences for something they didn't clean a room, they did something bad, you got to ground them. You don't have the consequences talk when you're angry. You have it when you're not angry anymore. And you've already front-loaded what consequences are in your home. So they already know what's coming. That's how we teach kids to make good choices. We'll talk more about that in personal management. This is one of the rules about the generality of addiction. And I do work with internet addiction. I work with kids with video game addiction. And we're going to get into how do you know it's a problem, but this is one of the important things that how to tell when it's a problem. If there's hiding going on, if they're hiding apps and you discover it, you're 3 months too late. If you find one bad picture, multiply that by 3. That's what they've got. So if you find 10, multiply it by 3. It's our rule of 3 with kids. If there's hiding going on, we're in a bad way. Anything we hide, and I say this about addiction, I say this about families in general, we are only as sick as our secrets. So if we're hiding something from our spouse, from our kids, if our kids are hiding stuff from us, then we have a sick environment. It has to be healed. That's why these things need to be talked about. Especially when things are going well. Talk about stuff when things are going well. Let's get into some of the finer points of safety. Computer in a common area. Computers in kids' rooms. Make sure you know they can manage this first. For years. For years, not a week, not a couple days. Computer in a common room.
Hey, Aaron.
Yes?
What's the difference between having the computer in the room and their smartphone? It's the same, isn't it?
I think with the phones, I think the moment we get into smartphones, the moment you decide that your kid is ready for a smartphone, you've given them the Library of Alexandria. And so the rules either have to be the same as a computer or cash in on the rule, because it's not going to work. Because there's anything you can do on a computer, you do on a phone.
Right.
Okay? You guys have all heard we have as much technology in a phone that NASA did when we put a man on the moon. That's what you can do with the phone. You can accomplish anything. Tell your kids. So these are things we're talking about. Hey, I'm willing to provide internet for people in this house under the following conditions. Now, a lot of these things are things that Sergeant Harris talked to me about. Computer in a common room. Number 2. Never trade a pic. Never trade a picture of yourself. Never trade a picture of yourself. How fast someone can figure out everything about you by the littlest thing you post, by a single text. It's unbelievable what these wolves can do. No names. When you have a little kid online, no names. Absolutely no names. Tell them to build a fake profile if this is something that you want them to experience. But never let them share their name. This also obviously includes personal info, address, the name of your school, the church you go to, anything. Anything. This is baiting a wolf. And I cannot stress this enough. Dang it. No purchases. Without mom or dad. No purchases without mom or dad. This is why you have to have the password. No app purchases, no nothing without mom or dad. We talked about the negative or scary messages. Yes?
I'm just kind of confused about that.
Yes.
Trade text. I don't know what you mean by that.
Kids take pictures of themselves and post them online.
Oh.
Don't let them put pics out there. Don't let them put pics out there. I get.
What about Facebook?
Well, again, I wouldn't give Facebook to a child. And that would, knowing what the teens do out there, watching them, knowing why some of the teens come into our facility, I wouldn't do it. That's why we don't let them do it while they're there. 19 is when it's over for a girl. Yeah, you had a question.
What about like as a parent, when we share our family information with our friends? Like I see some friends who say like, A did this today, or Jay did that today. And then there's some families like me, I just say Audrey and I just put my kid's name, like first name. Are you saying that even like as parents, if our kids are younger, we shouldn't even put their names or their pictures?
What I'm saying is that if you put your kid's name and your kid has a page,
Okay.
the wolf's not coming through you. They're going to go through your kid. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
Kid doesn't have a page.
that's right. That's right. But a kid sharing information with a stranger on a phone, on a text, on something like that, that's the angle I'm talking about. I heard another question popping up over here.
Aaron?
Yes.
I was going to say, in terms of, different social media, Facebook versus Instagram versus, there's so many I can't even keep up.
And there's ones you don't want to know about. Please listen to the podcast that kids are on. WhatsApp is one of the worst things your kids can have. WhatsApp, if it's on your kid's phone, strip it. But it is a nightmare.
Why?
Because of the access that's the app that pedophiles use. And this is why I'm doing this talk, and I don't want to get so far into the shadow because we could all be like, oh God, and I have 7 Facebook pages, and I market my business online. My daughter is a marketing specialist with social media, has her own social media company. So I know we have to remember there is the good, but this shadow walks alongside wherever there's light. It's right there alongside. So I want to push you towards the podcast with Sergeant Harris, just so you can hear a police officer talk about it. Okay? Yes. 5. Good. Thank you. All right. I want to jump ahead very quickly. When we start limiting, and we hear all my friends, well, all my friends, here's your response, and we're all going to practice it together. Okay? It's going to be uncomfortable when you say it. Because you might know these parents who are your kids' friends' parents. Say it. Wait. Before you say it, we got to breathe. Imagine your kid's face and say, but my friend's got a smartphone. His parents let him have a smartphone. Now, you know these family. You like these people. So you've got to say this in such a way that you maintain an alliance with your child and are still going to hold to your value system. So practice saying this in such a way that your child doesn't now throw something through a window. Do it? That's so sad. We add one thing to it. I'm not going to give you a smartphone yet, kiddo. Oh, all my friends have a smartphone. Their parents give them smartphones. Oh, that's so sad. And what did I say? And we maintain that. If we've decided we're putting our foot down on something, some other family doing it is not our motivation. Our motivation is our value system. We will return to our parents' value systems. No matter how far your teenager strays, they will come back. Signs that something's going on. Instead of writing these because it'll slow them down, I'm going to read them to you. These are the signs that something's going on. You got a gut, you got a mommy gut, you got a daddy gut?
May I ask you a question?
Yes.
So I would say that probably in everybody's mind, in my mind, we're in an era where there's no like pay phones, and sometimes they're away from us. Would you recommend handing them like a flip phone or something like that? The kids can't even find
Flip
one,
phones.
hopefully finding one. And then at what age, when you feel like they're emotionally ready?
That's going to be a behavioral contract between you and your kid. We give raises based on sustained above and beyond behaviors. That's how it happens in the adult world. It's how we prepare our kids for the adult world. We front load in a contract, in a behavior contract, when we are willing to offer a smartphone. When I see the following things are being done, chores without being reminded for consistent. How long? I don't know. What do you think is a good amount of time? And now we're having a conversation. Everybody say that word. Conversation with our child about reward and consequence. Okay? That's contracting behavior. I strongly believe in behavior contracts. Signs something's going on. You got a little alarm. We've got spending too much time online. How much time is too much time? That's up to you. That's got to totally be up to you. But if you're uncomfortable saying something, you're already a little too late. Lying, sneaking, stealing, cheating. If that's happening, something's going on. Not just lying about being on it. They're hiding something from you. And you got to go detective on them. It's time for Columbo. Erasing history. One of your rules in your internet behavior contract is there will be no erasing history. This is a non-negotiable. If you erase history, you will lose access to the internet. I am willing to provide internet to people who are transparent about the places that they've been. No illegal sites. And if they erase history, something's going on. Ghost apps, if you find a ghost app, they know more than they should. Becoming upset or depressed when they go online or immediately after they come off. I'm not talking about a quick withdrawal symptom. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Turning off the computer when you come into the room. And withdrawing from family life or friends. Remember to give the time. Hey, 5 minutes to dinner. That save point is a big deal if your kid's on a video game. How far away is your next save point? I'm close. Okay, dinner's in 5 minutes. Stop at the save point or I'm going to shut it off and you'll lose your progress. That means a lot to a kid who's on a video game. And if they go over and don't save it, yank the plug. You told them you would. You did it when it was good. There needs to be consequences. If those things are going on, it's time for honest conversations, behavior contracts, and that's front loading. When times are good, we sit down and we say, here are the conditions under which I will provide you internet. And here's what will happen if we violate these rules. And here's what will happen if it gets really bad. The whole family changes, not just the kid's behavior. Okay? The child is not broken. The system's broken. And the adults must address the system. We created the system that our children are living under. So if our children start to lie within the system, steal, sneak, the system's broken, not the child. I don't work with broken children. I work with broken families and broken systems. So we address this systemically. So when the child has to do a behavior contract, guess what? Dad's signing too. And he's got new rules. And if he violates it, there's consequences. And if people follow it, there's rewards. That's how contracts work. Now, here's the signs it's very bad. These are big uh-ohs. When the balance of real life versus the online life has tipped. The online life is better than real life. We're in a bad, bad way. Those are the kids that I work with. Why are they addicted to online? Because real life sucks for them. And online, they're heroes who saved the world. They got a team and superpowers. I know what I would choose. I chose it for 14 years. Consequences are irrelevant. You set the consequences, the kid bulldozes them. Doesn't care. Screams, freaks out when you try to impose more. The withdrawal symptoms are without access. If they're doing for the electronics and internet, what they would be, if they are doing that, if the behavior, when you take away the Xbox, and they freak out, if they were doing that because of drugs, would you be worried? That's your question. If you take away mayonnaise and they freak out like you just took away cocaine, you just be worried about mayonnaise. Because it's the behavior, it's the person we're worried about, not the action. Okay? The Xbox is secondary to the real issue. So if what you see, if you go, if this was about drugs, this would be a problem. It's a problem. All right. Withdrawal symptoms without access. This is fits and tantrums, depression and anxiety, paralysis. And what I mean by that, they just can't do anything. They can't haul themselves out of bed. Life has no meaning. And then, of course, the obsession and that addiction cycle, where they obsess about it, and they find it and hide it, and they use it, experience immediate relief. Then they feel guilt and they purge, they tell you, and then it starts all over again. And then, of course, and obviously, law breaking. If it's really bad, if things have gotten really bad, it's therapy time. And you don't cupcake the conversations anymore. What do you think's going to happen when life and limb's on the line? Mom and dad step in, and you take over. There are no rules. They don't get a vote or a choice anymore. Life and limb is when you get to totally intervene. The rest of the time, we need to check them managing the consequences that they create. They're going to use the internet. And we have found in recovery of the really, really bad scenarios that they can't be abstinent from it. It's like food. It's like sex. It's not something that you can just never be around again. Because our whole world is becoming tech. So this has to be about management. In the same way we'd have to manage food. Or have to manage personal, intimate relationships. So this means conversation, uncomfortable conversations. This means do it when it's good, not when it's uncomfortable. Because being uncomfortable and having hard conversations when things are going really well is way more effective than screaming at each other and saying, "Give me that phone." That will never work. What will work, to come all the way around to the beginning, don't take your kid's phone. Say, "I'm willing to pay and willing for you to have that phone because I gave it to you as a gift." And we don't take gifts from people. But I'm not willing to provide internet access anymore. That's on you. If you want internet access, you're going to have to pay for it. I know they can find it elsewhere. That's the world we live in. But you can't control what they do outside of the house anyway. The other reason why I'm doing this is that if you find yourself as a parent going through some more difficult things, maybe something above and beyond or something akin to what I was talking about, I do host parent evenings for kids who are demonstrating, displaying risky behavior. I have an email list up here if you would like to be contacted only about those parenting evenings. I do have a list from the high school. If you would like to come to that parent evening, it is free, and it's where we can spend some time actually talking about some of the more difficult things that we won't be discussing here this evening. So, that's technology. As I feel the room, it's kind of like it's a heavy one, folks, and it's part of our life. And as adults, we made the system, we invented them, we market them, we sell them. We have to manage them. We can't expect kids to manage them. Okay, yes, questions?
In regards to setting up, limits and agreeing as a family on when things go well.
Behavior contracts, sure.
So you put your phone away then?
Every night, my wife and I still do without our kids in the house.
So then work is done, right?
So you got to call your time. And if I get it. I mean, a lot of us use that tech for work. Set the time so the kids understand boundaries. They won't respect your boundaries if you don't respect boundaries that you set. Okay, so model it. Yes?
So split households, dad's provided a smartphone, which I despise.
Mm-hmm. Goes in a box when they come to your house.
So I was just thinking then I maybe can provide a flip phone so that
Sure.
we can get a hold of
Perfect.
me or dad when he's
Perfect solution.
okay.
Yep. Split households, either you're able to work together to create the common, or you set your own. And kids learn that there are multiple boundaries and rules in life. Because that's real too. All right? I know we're coming to the end. I'm getting the walk up. Yes. Please say again. A gizmo watch. No, I have not heard of a gizmo watch. What?
A smartwatch.
It's a smartwatch? Okay.
Smartwatch, something.
They can call like 4 numbers.
Okay, 4 numbers. Okay, there are still cell phones that do that as well.
You can just, I think you can have 10 numbers in there. So
Beautiful.
you can in touch with someone, but there's no internet and no app.
I love the idea.
But you can take pictures for saving your right?
Okay.
Make me nervous.
The name of the podcast, if I don't see it for the rest of the evening, is Beyond Risk and Back. That's the name of the podcast, weekly episodes. This talk is going to be one of the episodes. So that's why I have the phone in my pocket and the wire heading in, because I've recorded everything I said. So this will be one of the episodes. Please look at Dialing Danger with Sergeant Harris. That's about phones. You guys, thank you very much, and I hope to see you at one of my other talks. But if not, thank you for spending this time with me. But most importantly, thank you for being here for your kids. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.